Hey everyone, this is Chelsea Schaefer. Welcome back to The Score. This is an episode a little bit different than the ones we've done in the past. It's not with necessarily somebody who's winning right now in the team roping. This is with Karl Stressman, the CEO of the AQHA, and Tammy Canida, who is the registrar at the AQHA. We have been sort of broken records over the last couple of years about horses, about pedigrees, about the importance of tracking earnings on horses. And today's episode with the AQHA really sort of summarizes everything we've been talking about and brings it all full circle to why it's so essential to have your horses in your name and to have your horse's earnings tracked in the database, because it's bringing this whole horse market that we spend so much time covering together with the AQHA. So this is an episode where we're going to go over what the AQHA is doing to bring more money into the rope horse industry, to really capitalize on what's going on in the futurity side of things, to capitalize on what's going on with all the new money in rodeo, and to help breeders and owners and stallion owners and mare owners and everybody across the board really embrace what's happening with the growth in the industry. And Karl is a funny subject to talk to. Obviously, Karl and I go as far back as my earliest years at Spin to Win, when he was the commissioner of the PRCA. I think there were times Karl cursed me back then. We went through. I was reporting during the ERA debacle, where we were talking to Karl about that all the time, where we were just watching the growth of the PRCA, challenges the PRCA were facing. And then Karl came over, and he was the president of the USTRC when we acquired the USTRC in 2017. And so I have been with Karl in one way or another for quite a long time now. And so this is a fun conversation because he's one of my favorite people to BS with. He's full of personality, and we cover a lot of ground in the next 35 minutes. So I hope you enjoy this episode. Please take a listen. Let me know what you think in the comments, and we will talk to you soon. In the arena, every turn, every loop, every run tells a story. At the heart of rodeo and roping is a horse built for grit, speed, and precision, the American Quarter Horse. AQHA puts the horse in horsepower. Ride registered. Join AQHA.
Thank you guys for being willing to do this, and it's a perfect time to talk about team roping and the AQHA because there's all sorts of big things happening. What has been the role of team roping in the AQHA over the last few years? And what's the growth been like? Tell me about it.
Well, I think one of the great things is, of course, just the team roping world, as you well know it, and I'm pretty familiar with the team roping world. That it just seems like it's on the verge of exploding into something different, and I don't even know what that is, Chelsea, what that new thing is, but I know what's happening in terms of what we're doing at the AQHA. And we can talk about team roping for the next 2 hours if we need to.
Mm-hmm.
The facts are, it really boils down to the payouts and the value of the animals that they're riding. I mean, let's face it, when we go to these team ropings, particularly at the World Show, and we offer some more, and we jackpot those things, which we haven't done a very good job of over the last several years back. But now all of a sudden you can go to the World Show, Joseph Harrison, and come home with $104,000, $106,000 in your pocket. And I know he had to buck up and win some, he had to place and win and do those kind of things, but he had the opportunity, because of the payouts, to spend 4 or 5 days at the World Show and come home with $100,000 in his pocket. That changes the dynamics of the team roping industry for us. And you mentioned in one of those things that we were talking about back and forth on the computer about the earnings for the barrel racing. The same thing applies to, and it really applies to all of the timed event pieces. Obviously, probably not the steer wrestling, and I'll probably get beat up by those big boys, but it much different today than it was in the last few years, partly because of the influence of JD Yates and those guys and Trevor coming over and Junior partnering up with with the
Las
Miguel.
Tunas, yeah.
I mean, it's just cool almost to sit back with my feet up on the desk and watch the progression of the team roping industry and the recognition of those guys that are now, looking at their horses in a little bit different way, thanks to you guys at the Journal and Q Data and those kind of things. They're looking at the business part of this a little differently than they were 5 or 6 or 7 years ago.
And I mean, obviously we're jackpotting some money, but what are sponsors telling you about wanting to get involved in team roping in AQHA competition?
Well, I think the sponsor thing is an interesting piece, I think, right now. And of course, that's been one of the things that I've been involved with for my whole career, is that sponsorship pieces from different angles, actually. I think that they're pleased, but I think there's a long ways that they can go in this deal, because I don't think that some of them are really tuned in to what could possibly be the return on being invested in the team roping industry. If they do, Denny's already got them, and so
He'll do that.
we'll back him a little bit too, just to give him a bad time. But you know what I'm saying? He's taken the lion's share of the good sponsors into over the years, he and Connie. And but I think the sponsors now are beginning to say, well, maybe we need to, our sponsors of the AQHA, maybe we need to dip our toe in the water with the team roping or the barrel racing or the things that are, that are real opportunities today. It'll continue to grow, and we will continue to offer some of the benefits of sponsorship at the AQHA and tie them into the timed event pieces, particularly in the team rope, and certainly a part of it in the barrel racing too. So
data recordings, because the more that they use their registered names, the more we capture on Q data, and it gives them more visibility out in the industry to those partnerships, to those future buyers and those future breeders. It just adds value to their horses when we can record it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's it's been so missing for so long in team roping. And then, a few years ago, we really started to make the effort with both the rodeo guys and all the jackpotting with the Riata and with the showing. What do you, I would love for you to expand on that a little bit more. The Q data, explain what Q data is for anybody who doesn't know, and explain why that's adding value to the industry.
The Q data is our record keeping organization as far as the horses competition records and their earnings out in the industry, and they are capturing millions of dollars from the roping results, which are added to the records of the registered horses when we know who they are. They're projected to record about $20 million in team roping earnings this year, and that's a huge benchmark. And there's more money being won that's not being captured because they're not being shown under the registered name. And if they don't do that, then we can't tie it to their horse record.
Mm-hmm.
And Q data builds the catalog pages for many of the sale companies. It's also the source where buyers go and look to see what has this horse done when they're looking to buy or when they're looking to make that breeding choice. Because that is the source, the most reliable source to get all the information you can about a horse from both the AQHA perspective and the other sport industry, such as the roping arena and barrel racing and things of that nature.
Now, Karl, you're a team roper through and through.
hey, well, my healers said different. I don't know. I don't understand that, but a few of my healers have said I'm really not that's it.
Well, I think that's a very team roper thing for you to say. But I mean, I think 2018 was the first year I started trying to track down all the registered names of every head and heel horse at the finals. And I was starting, with 15 head horses and 15 heel horses. And at first, adventure would take me from I would say, okay, what horse are you guys going to ride at the NFR, or what horse did you ride throughout the regular season? And I would start that journey September 30th when the season ended, and I
Yeah.
was lucky if I would get the list of every horse the guys rode throughout the year completed by the time the NFR started. And I would be
You get-
very lucky if I would get the top 15 horses during the NFR. That was always a journey too. But now I have a running list of every horse that every guy's riding. I've got them trained. I've got the top 15
yeah.
at least trained to know their horses, to know their registered names, and to report them to me. What do you think is the climb with the everyday team roper for making that happen?
I got to tell you a great story. So 3.5 years ago, they talked me out of retirement and talked me into moving to Amarillo, Texas, and having a great opportunity to work for the American Quarter Horse Association. So when I got here, right, I have 2 head horses that are now standing at Will Rogers, and I haven't been on them much. I have to admit, I'm a little I'm a little busy doing some of the things that I think are the necessity for the next few months anyway, here to run my horses. But I had to admit to Tammy, who's the registrar, hey Tim, maybe I ought to register my horses. Like, it might be a good idea for the CEO of the American Quarter Horse Association to register his horses in his own name. But what it tell you about the history of the team roping industry and the fact that they just weren't, I'll include myself in the team roping industry, although everybody knows I'm just a recreational team roper, but they had the opportunities to register those horses, but they didn't feel like the necessity was there. Now, I didn't care if a guy from Canada had the papers on that big black gelding I ride. You know what? What's the big deal? The papers are in the glove box of the truck. You go in and get stopped, or you're going to California. You got to show your papers. You just show your papers. But now with the collective, and you were instrumental in starting this deal. Of course, Robin Glenn, has been doing this for a long, long time at Q Data. Now all of a sudden, guys like Trevor, who is a good businessman, or Joseph, or you can just go right down the line. Because of the value of the team roping horses today, and that applies to show horses and everything else, but we're talking team roping today, they can't just say, "Oh, Blackie," he's Bob Tallman's, yeah, Trevor's riding old Blackie or whatever. That's not what will pay the bills in the future. And reporting all of the data that comes through, and being able to tell somebody that head horse or heel horse, we have won $175,000 on that head horse. Just the purses themselves, and this from the length of time that you've been in it a long time. The purses are, I go back to the 3 for 30 days. And now people are willing to go to these team ropings week after week after week and put their money up and take a run at, having a good day and drawing 4 good ones and doing all those kind of things. And then it records on that piece. And when I go to sell you that big black gelding, that gelding's 100,000, or one, the BFI, or one of those, it used to be in Billy Pipes and Bob Feist and that crew, with those 3 or 4 big ropings. It's just been phenomenal what the dollars are out there that have been, and they've been there for a while, but they have been unseen. They just somebody's pocket or somebody's bank account. So the opportunity to promote your horses by their registered name, and we're working pretty close with the PRCA to make sure that, like the problem that you have, and that is, okay, guys, who are you riding? I mean, what's this horse? And yeah, it's old Blackie. Well, no, it's not old Blackie. It's got to be something. If you're going to maximize the efficiency of the American Quarter Horse, which we dominate, most of the team roping industry with, then you got to do something to help yourself get to that point. And I think that's where Trevor, as the businessman that he is, and Joseph being there winning over 100,000 last year at the World Show, they're beginning to see that this is not that difficult to do, to register a quarter horse. but it does have some huge advantages. And as you well know, there's some of these ropings now that pay 100,000. They pay 130,000. Ricky Bowman, and they win themselves like $85,000. That's unheard of. It's not unheard of, but it used to be unheard of. So that goes along with the what horse were you riding, and how do you apply those winnings to that horse?
It's an investment in the horse's value, his integrity,
Absolutely,
and its future, and it helps preserve the legacy of the American quarter horse and helps preserve the legacy of that horse itself.
Yeah, and again, when you seriously look at it, and I don't care what number roper you are, you can be a 4-header, but you want to ride a horse that you have an opportunity to win. Now it needs to fit you. You can't, obviously, the horses that Trevor's riding or Joseph's riding probably don't fit a low numbered roper. But man, you want to ride the best you can ride in that deal. And there's a lot of money in the team roping world that may or may not have that may have surfaced over the course of the last really few years. But like I said, I think it's on an explosion. I was on the phone with Gentry the other day talking to him because, he knows a little bit about this game, and
just a little.
So, yeah, just a little. So, Midas, the Midas of the team roping world.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so it's just people are excited about it. What we want, really, the bottom line for us is register your horses.
Mm-hmm.
We'll collect data. We'll get the data to Robin Glenn. Hopefully, and we're working on that every day too, as to what these jackpots are doing. How do we get them to report and all those kind of things that it is our obligation to do to help members of the American Quarter Horse Association. But it's a fun time to be part of the team roping world, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, and get the records on Robin Glenn records. It just adds value to that horse, and for lots of different ways where there's no other place to do that in the industry.
And the leaderboards are awesome too, because from a media perspective, I get to look every week and see who's leading the leaderboards on the breeders, on the owners, on the horses, on the sires, on the dams, and that's fun to give us added storylines for things to talk about that adds to marketing, that then adds value. It's all like a very cool ecosystem right now.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? The other thing too is, Miguel Herrera is a really close friend of the AQHA, and he won the International Remuda of the Year last year down there at Las Tunas.
Absolutely.
I've been down there. He if he's never been on one of your podcasts, he's a very interesting guy that has a real handle on the breeding portion of that deal. What he's doing, he's working pretty closely with some of the top team ropers, and he would be a good interview for you to do too, because he has a great ideas. His ideas are. His facility down there is phenomenal down there in Chihuahua, so he'd be a good one.
From the back of the box to the barrier, from the break of the steer to the dally, roping demands a partner who knows the job and lives to do it. The ideal partner, an American quarter horse. For decades, AQHA has been the standard bearer, preserving the bloodlines, honoring the legacy, and supporting the sport you love. AQHA puts the horse in horsepower. Ride registered and join AQHA.
We talked about Joseph winning 100,000. What do people need to know about going to the World Show? Like, if there's an everyday team roper who is interested, they hear this podcast and they're like, you know what, I would love to see what they think of my horse there. What do people need to know? How do you get there, and what's going to happen when you're there?
So to get there, of course, they have to compete in the weekend shows leading up to it to qualify. And then once they're qualified, they'll get an invitation to the World Show to compete. And in 2023, there was more than $500,000 of added money in the World Show for them to win.
Mm-hmm.
Then they'll come to Oklahoma City and spend a few days and of competing and having some fun.
Yeah, the new arena.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
We were there this week, as a matter of fact, Monday and Tuesday. And Wednesday, Tammy was there, and I was there Wednesday and Thursday. But it's just part of the process of we have a lot of weekend shows that you can go and qualify for the World Show. It's not like you have to go every weekend to an AQHA show. You get to a point where you're qualified for the World. And then I honestly think that it's relatively easy because we do have quite a few shows and state affiliates all over the country. As a matter of fact, all over the world, actually. But you would obviously do it here in the States. But it makes it fairly easy. It's not a difficult process to try to get to qualified for the World Show. And then to Tammy's point, $500,000, $500,000 in added money. You remember. Well, certainly I remember that far back. You don't probably, but I remember when JD and Jay Wadhams really went to the AQHA. They're both Wrangler National Finals qualifiers and all. But I remember when those two guys particularly chose to go show AQHA, and I think people were, and I think JD would support me on this. I think people are like, really, you're gonna stop rodeo and then go to the World Show, and the showing business or the showing piece of the horse business, and look what happened. I mean, by the time they established themselves in the AQHA very quickly, and then the rest of the people are going, that might have been a pretty darn good idea on their behalf to go. I can assure you, and JD would say this, I'm sure he would. Well, he wouldn't say it if I told him to say it, because he would, how
Because
it
he's
is.
hard-headed that way, yes.
Yeah, but he would tell you what it's like today versus that. And that was 20 years. I bet it was at least 20 years ago.
Probably more than that, yeah.
It might have been, yeah. So he's now seeing the benefit of doing that and seeing the dollars increase by way of the jackpot money and the additional corporate sponsor piece that we're trying to put in. We want to promote that piece so that people have the opportunity to come there and play
and compete against the best.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But because it's just important that people don't think of, and I don't mean this in a bad way, people don't think about us just as a show piece. You know what I mean? And they don't think about, we just get on those quarter horses and ride around in circles. That has nothing to do with, I mean, this is detailed. These are horsemen and horsewomen that love the sport. But I think that sometimes our reputation has a tendency not to be only what people assume they know about the World Show and the showing piece of that deal. And there's so much more to it. And we're trying to put some energy in that with, obviously, again, I think the first thing I said was it takes money to make it work. And the AQHA is willing to spend money on that piece. The executive committee has committed to returning all the dollars back to the show business and not retaining any of those dollars, but putting it all back in there so people that do show up and do support the World Show and the Youth Show and VRH and the different levels, they get the money back.
Yeah,
it's more like the team roping world now. When we didn't always run at 80%.
Yep.
So go back to them.
Yeah, and look at the.
Now, what about the judging? If you've never had your horses judged before, if you're a team roper and maybe you got into maybe you registered your horse or transferred your horse for the first time because of the Regatta buckle, the Regatta championships. And then now you're like, okay, well, maybe from the Regatta in September, I'll go to the World Show. What do people need to know about the judging component? Is it, and how does the judging work in the AQHA for the rope horses?
Well, I mean, it is a little different piece to that deal, and you would probably, I would probably advise you that that Chris would be a great opportunity for you. He's the head of our judging program to explain exactly what the differences are between what they're looking at and what the jackpot business looks like. Probably better than I could do that. But what I will tell you is, we've got judges that are capable of doing it whatever way we want to. As a matter of fact, I had a brilliant idea last year that I'm still banging around in my head to actually have a triple header at the World Show where you jackpot one steer, you AQHA judge one steer, and you let's see what was the other one that I was thinking about. But anyway, 3 different judging and a timed event. Time judging and then a combination timed and judged piece for a world championship on like a triple crown but you have to ride the same horse. So, guys that are talented, like all of your top 15 or 20, team ropers in PRCA, that would be a kick to watch those guys have to do all 3 kinds of judging to get it done.
And part of their judging is, they'll emphasize on the horsemanship part of it, not just the speed of catching.
That's the judging part, the simple judging, AQHA judging part. But there's not a team roper in the world that would go to those that can't do all the things that will be asked or required of them as far as the judging goes. I mean, it is a little different. All 3 of those are a little different, but it would be a fun deal.
They could weigh it a little different.
They could weigh the situation out, but it would be like, I'm like, hey, this would be cool to crown a horse as the Triple Crown winner of the American Quarter Horse Association. It just gives us another opportunity. It gives Joseph or Trevor or Junior or Caleb or any of the rest of them have an opportunity to go there and raise enough money so that it has the value for them to come. Look, we all of us in the team roping world want to go watch the best in the world because we're thinking, wow, this is cool, and I want to go watch these guys rope. And I'm too old to learn anything new, but I could lie and tell them I learned something from them.
When it comes to where you see this all going, what has the Riata done for where things are going, and where do you see the partnership going from here with that?
Well, just strictly the dollars that are being paid out at the Riata level, and the fact that they're helping us, obviously helping the breed associations. We, the largest breed, get most of the value out of it, I think. But the biggest thing is getting our team roping communities to follow through and understand it. The one thing that we have to be careful of, and this is my own opinion of that, so if anybody wants to call in and complain, go ahead. But we have to also be careful too that we're not escalating the costs of doing business with the team roping world particularly, or the barrel racing or whomever. But the horses have, as you well know, the cost of horses have just continued to escalate. I mean, we paid what, $1.7 million for that mare out there in Utah a month ago. I mean, you're talking serious dollars. Now, we don't want the team roping world or any other part of the AQHA world to get so expensive that people can't afford to play in it. You can't, and I know, and Tammy knows too, it's hard to depend on that top 15 in the world of pro rodeo because there's so many more. There's another 5,000 of them that are putting dollars into the sport itself. We feel the same way here. Now, we're always going to have expensive horses. We get that. And we're absolutely ecstatic about being proud enough to have horses that are selling for $1 million. But man, we got to figure out the entry level pieces on this deal. We just got you show. Well, we will this weekend, but we were there this week. We have to be very careful that we don't keep pushing the needle up because it will self-identify at some point in time, and it will go to something that makes sense in the world of the horse industry. So we're also conscious about, we keep stacking these these wins on top of these horses, that it gets them up there in that 6-figure range pretty blasted fast, and you're like, wow, it's amazing.
And with the Riata buckle that you mentioned too, it just exposes the popularity, and it drives people to go watch and want to do it. So have the interest and keep them interested in it, and find something fun for them to do, whether it is a team roping or barrel racing or competing at the youth world show or the big world show, or maybe their show in their backyard. it just piques their interest and keeps them engaged in the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like the breeders have been, I know Lisa Fulton, she's always loved all of the timed events, but most of their earnings had always been in barrel racing with the Streak of Fling. But now she's seeing, and breeders like Lisa Fulton and breeders like Bill Myers are seeing huge dollars coming from team roping when it comes to on their stallions, but then also they're seeing team ropers interested in their horses. What have you been hearing from breeders in your circles, the mass of breeders in the AQHA circles? What have they been saying about team roping?
Well, it's exploding in the
Hmm.
industry. We look at statistics each year for the stallions that bred the prior year, and we take a real close look at those that breed a lot of mares. And for the first time in as long as I've been tracking those statistics, the last couple of years, a roping horse has been in that top category. And that hasn't always been the case because it hasn't always been singled out
Hmm.
as its own. And now we're seeing them in the top.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I think the breeders are they get it. They're seeing it now. I'm not sure how long that's been going on, but the breeders are looking at the team roping industry, particularly those that may not have been in the team roping industry, and going, man, we're missing the boat here. We got to get involved with this crew right here because they are kicking it down, and we want to have our horses exposed. And that's why it's so important. I went back on. We do a sponsorship with the Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association on Horses of the Year, and it's at the banquet, the awards banquet on Thursday night there, Wednesday night there at the NFR.
Hmm.
and but for the breeders to really benefit from it, they need some help from the team roping community to just exactly to what you said. They need registered names. It can't be Blackie going to the old Blackie that Trevor's riding. That doesn't make sense. It has to be that registered name, because people that are really into the horse business, they notice exactly. And that's why there's several studs that are getting the majority of the breeding done with them, because people recognize that name and how it applies to the team roping world. And so that's a thing that the breeders have to do to help themselves, is encourage that use of registered names, not bar names, registered names, so they know it can look back and see what that stud was, and you go back generations and generations of it on AQHA papers and figure out what that breeding process has looked like over the last 30 years or 50 years. Obviously not the same horse, but
Right. And that, besides just recording it on that particular horse's earnings, it ties it to his sire's record and his dams
Yeah.
record, and it's value to everything that's in that lineage, and gives us a chance to help them promote it by putting it in the AQHA history books.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is if people make it this long into the interview, most people do, but if they do, I want all the team ropers out there, the top 15. Now is the time that if your horse is not transferred into your name, but you want to be in the Horse of the Year voting, now is the time to do it. Because every year, without fail, in September, I am overnighting papers to AQHA and transfers to guys and tracking down papers. So now is the time. You need your horse in your name.
Good commercial endorsement. Yeah, that's a good.
Yes.
It's a fun time to be in the horse business. It's a fun time to be in the team roping world. It just continues to grow, and then we got such great people in it. And when the best in the world, are getting the process, it will continue to grow throughout, because very, very, very few things start at the bottom and go to the top, but they do start at the top with these great ropers. And if they're doing it, people are like, there's a reason why these guys are doing this way, and maybe we ought to take a look at it. But I would encourage everybody who's riding a quarter horse today's market to spend a few dollars and get them registered, and join the AQHA, and because there are good things to come out of the team roping world, and we're just going to continue to advance the payouts, because very frankly, they got a million places to go, as you well know. So we got to make it fun for them and affordable and pay well for them to show up at the World Show. And that's what we're beginning to see, I think, is that trend from the big boys, the
Yep.
pros, to show up at the team roping world. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I looked at my calendar. I already have my World Show plans, November.
Yeah.
So it'll be, I think that they rope the second week in November, November 9th-ish, around that time, I believe. I don't know if you all have the calendar in front of you, but I'll make sure I include in the intro of this episode, I'll make sure I include the actual dates for the World Show team roping, but we will be there. It is a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's cool.
Well, thank you guys so much for the time this morning. I sure appreciate it.
We're glad to do it. And we're glad that, thanks for the shout outs, because that's, it is important that it's important that the team roping world, led by the journal and your crew there, put the message out for people that this is acceptable behavior.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, you know what I mean? This is what you all should be doing, endorsed by the journal and the team roping world. That helps us tremendously. It helps themselves. But as you and I both know, sometimes the whole world doesn't understand that you need to help yourself once in a while and get through those times. And this helps with your endorsement, saying, "Hey, guys, listen to what this is doing, and listen to what it's doing to your industry." And it increases value of horses, and they get it. But we're just not that great at registering horses.
No, and we've talked about it. I think I talked about it with Jim Hunt on the sports desk at the BFI.
Yeah.
Maybe we talked about it, how this much money that team roping can infuse into the quarter horse industry is so much money. We're talking more than racehorses. We're talking more than anything else. That's what's going to bring and I might be exaggerating here, but that's what's going to bring the Nike. That's what's going to bring the big corporate sponsors that will put more money, even more money, and it just keeps growing and makes it cyclical. That's what's going to bring it all together. So I am glad to do this with AQHA. I think this is an awesome partnership.
Good deal.
Well, thank you guys. Well, we will talk soon. Thank you again, Karl. Thanks, Tammy.
The best runs start with the right partner, the American Quarter Horse. Ride registered. Join AQHA.